Did you know that John Wick's biggest weakness is his unrelenting drive for anger and revenge?
I think you're addicted to it, to the vengeance.
While his determination is often seen as his greatest strength, it's also his downfall. John's refusal to stop pursuing his targets, even when it would be wiser to wait for a better opportunity, has led to dire consequences. For instance, when Santino hid in the Continental, instead of waiting or finding another way, John killed him on the hotel grounds, breaking the rules and forcing himself to go on the run. This pattern continued when he murdered the elder.
My death will not change the outcome any more than you can change your nature.
John's inability to control his thirst for revenge ultimately led to most of his problems in the 4 films, costing the lives of several close friends. How many
Did you know that John Wick's phone, which he uses to view old videos of his wife throughout the movies, is one of the only smartphones featured in the franchise? Most of the other assassins use older devices like flip phones or landlines. After John assassinates Gianna D'Antonio, his phone is broken, symbolizing his official return to the underworld. Interestingly, Winston, who used an iPhone before Chapter 3, switches to a flip phone in that film, which might subtly represent his short-lived betrayal of John by the end of the movie. In Chapter 4, we see the tracker use a flip phone to track John's bounty, while the Marquis initially uses a Samsung phone, which he later smashes.
Yes?
Fine, you have a deal.
All right, 35 it is.
That wasn't our deal.
Well, that's the only deal being offered today.
This ties into a fun fact. Apple reportedly doesn't allow villains to use iPhones on screen, so the Marquis resorts to using an old-fashioned landline.
Did you know about the code of honor that John Wick follows throughout the movies? Although he eliminates over 400 people across the 4 films, he still shows respect to some of his enemies and even ensures they really want to fight him.
You sure this is what you want to do?
John walks away from possible hostilities when he can. He also spares some of his enemies. John appreciates every friendship he has, and it is hinted that he did many things for his friends. He empathizes with Mr. Nobody when his dog is in danger, saves the dog, and spares Mr. Nobody. John's vengeance is a major part of the series. He not only avenges his dog, but also his friends, like Marquis, showing his loyalty and sense of justice. John's last act of honor is showcased in the duel, where he intentionally chooses not to kill Caine and even considers dying for it. This demonstrates his deep sense of morality and respect for his adversaries. Did you know that in John Wick 3, Zero constantly emphasizes that he and John are alike, despite their many differences? For example, John is a dog person, while Zero is a cat person. John prefers cars and guns, whereas Zero prefers motorcycles and blades. Additionally, their personalities are quite opposite. Zero is extroverted and talkative, while John is introverted and speaks only when necessary. Zero also has his students who sometimes support him in fights, while John often fights alone. Moreover, Zero is a fanboy of John, admiring him greatly.
I'm a huge fan.
Whereas John is the legendary assassin everyone looks up to. This contrast is highlighted in the train station scene where John and Zero approach each other with knives, ready to fight in public. Just before they meet, a group of kids walks through them. Zero then comments,
"See, that's why you're special, John Wick."
I wouldn't have stopped.
How much damage did John Wick take throughout the 4 movies? While John took many smaller hits from fists, cars, and shots against his bulletproof suit. He also endured more severe damage. In the first movie, John gets shot twice at the Red Circle. A doctor stitches him up and gives him pills. He also gets stabbed by Viggo at the end. In part 2, he gets shot twice in the stomach. At the Bowery King's place, he has a bandage indicating that they operated on him. In John Wick 3, Ernest stabs him in the shoulder and the doctor stitches him up again. He takes multiple knife wounds during the antique shop fight. Later, he sacrifices a finger to the elder and gets shot off the Continental roof, leaving him wounded and needing 6 months to recover. In part 4, he falls twice from high places but without severe consequences. At the end, in the duel with Caine, John gets stabbed in the hand and receives multiple gunshot wounds, leading to his collapse.
What was John Wick's impossible task?
I gave him an impossible task.
When John requested to leave the life as a hitman to his associate Viggo, to retire with his wife Helen, he accepted it under one condition: to fulfill the impossible task.
A job no one could have pulled off.
The John Wick wiki stated that this included killing all of Viggo's enemies in a single night. To accomplish this goal, John Wick probably needed a lot of intel and the help of Santino D'Antonio, to whom he gave a marker in order to fulfill the impossible task.
If not for what I did on the night of your impossible task, you wouldn't be here.
My theory is that due to Santino's direct relationship with the Camorra and the High Table, he provided John Wick with important intel or manpower. Many fans have been asking for a movie that explores how John Wick made his escape from the world of assassins on that impossible night.
Why is John Wick in Ballerina?
The one they call the Baba Yaga.
Many fans have been asking this, especially since, spoiler alert, John Wick presumably dies at the end of John Wick. Chapter 4. However, Ballerina takes place in the time gap between John Wick, Chapter 3, Parabellum, and Chapter 4, during the period when John goes into hiding under the protection of the Bowery King for about 8 months. This explains why he can still appear in Ballerina. Ultimately, John's involvement in Ballerina could be a mix of loyalty to Winston, unfinished business with the High Table, and the desire to help someone who, like him, is driven by vengeance. His appearance is sure to add another layer to the already intense story.
This isn't done until they're dead.
Fate is a very humbling thing.
Did you know John Wick's kill count throughout the movies? Although we don't know his number of eliminations before the events of the films, we know he already had a legendary status, leading us to believe he had a very high number of kills. However, we can determine the actual number of people who fell victim to John in the movies. In the first movie, John kills 77 people, which is notable because it's the shortest movie. In the second movie, John makes 128 kills, mostly while fleeing from bounty hunters. In Chapter 3, John eliminates around 90 for people, primarily bounty hunters, High Table troops, or guards at the coin minting facility. In Part 4, John reaches his all-time high with 140 kills. His first kills in this movie are the Elder's bodyguards and the Elder, and his last is the Marquis.
Consequences.
This makes a total of around 439 kills throughout the 4 movies. How much damage did John Wick take throughout the 4 movies? While John took many smaller hits from fists, cars, and shots against his bulletproof suit, he also endured more severe damage. In the first movie, John gets shot twice at the Red Circle. The doctor stitches him up and gives him pills. He also gets stabbed by Viggo at the end. In Part 2, he gets shot twice in the stomach. At the Bowery King's place, he has a bandage indicating that they operated on him. In John Wick 3, Ernest stabs him in the shoulder and the doctor stitches him up again. He takes multiple knife wounds during the antique shop fight. Later, he sacrifices a finger to the elder and gets shot off the Continental roof, leaving him wounded and needing 6 months to recover. In Part 4, he falls twice from high places but without severe consequences. At the end, in the duel with Caine, John gets stabbed in the hand and receives multiple gunshot wounds, leading to his collapse.